Okay, what's going on? Welcome to the Space and Rocket Review. Space and Rocket Review. You two girls. Tell your friends. Space and Rocket Review. You in the hat. It's first Space and Rocket Review since I've been back from vacation. What's going on, everybody? I'm EJ, your host. I will be taking you on this radical journey of space news for the second week of July and some of the first week of July, too. I'm not wearing a hat. I wasn't talking to you. Jeez. Jeez. All right. What do we got here? So, actually, honestly, for the first week of July, guys, was not like on my phone, so I don't really. Like, you guys tell me what was the news for the first week? I saw SpaceX was doing something with their transport stand. What's that about? Nice hat, by the way. Thank you. Bringing you any good news. Cool Rocket Lab satellite factory video. Neat. Relate wants to move a shuttle. Oh, God. Not. If there's any B-roll in that dang freaking video, it's going to get flagged on. Or any B-roll music in this video, it's going to get flagged on YouTube. You missed a lot there. Static firing Ship 37 on the OLM. Huh. NASA got $10 billion for Artemis. Did you all see that NSF launched a new channel? Oh yeah? That's what I get for being away for a week. Introducing Breaking Space, NASA Spaceflight's brand new channel dedicated to rapid release explainers on everything space, happening around the world and beyond. Yeah, let's check it out.
The European Space Agency has just selected 5 launch companies to participate in the agency's European Launcher Challenge. This challenge was proposed at the 2023 Ministerial Council in Seville, with the agency releasing a request for information a few months later in June 2024 and a formal request for proposals in March 2025. The programme aims to increase competitiveness of European launch services, dominated by the more traditional launch company giants Arianespace and Avio. The challenge calls for companies to compete in 2 categories, or so-called components. Component A will be a launch services selection for ESA that should be performed in the period from 2026 to 2030. Component B will be a demonstration of a launch service capacity upgrade, including at least 1 flight demonstration of said upgraded launch capacity planned to be performed by 2028. The program has a 2-phase approach, with the first one having been completed just this week with the pre-selection of 5 companies: ESA Aerospace of Germany, Maya Space of France, Orbex of the United Kingdom, PLD Space of Spain, and Rocket Factory Augsburg of Germany. The agency says it selected the companies based on their technical maturity, business maturity, and sustainability, the institutional market planned to be served, as well as compliance to procurement rules. ESA has allotted a maximum of €169 million per challenger to cover the activities under both Component A and Component B of the challenge. If you've been following our channel for a while, you've probably heard of at least a few of these companies before. 3 of them have featured on our Europe's Future in Space series. That's PLD Space, Maya Space, and RFA. NSF has also provided live stream production services to ESA Aerospace. PLD Space is working on its Miura 5 small launch vehicle, which is intended to be reusable using propulsive landing. That vehicle won't initially be able to do that though, and will be upgraded in capacity to allow for propulsive landing. Perhaps that could allow PLD Space to meet the Component B requirement. The company is also working in parallel on its Miura Next family of medium and heavy lift launch vehicles, so that too could be in play as well. French company Maya Space is also working on a reusable small to medium lift launch vehicle called Maya, also featuring propulsive landing. The company has been working since 2022 on developing the rocket and is aiming for a first launch next year. The company, a subsidiary of Ariane Group, is making use of the Prometheus engine already in development to reach the launch pad quickly. During his interview on NSF's Europe's Future in Space series, company CEO Johan Lavoie said that the rocket would have margin for upgraded capacity in the future, reaching up to 4,000 kilograms to certain orbits. In the case of RFA, that company is working on its RFA-1 rocket, which came very close to being the first one to launch out of all 5 competitors. However, the rocket suffered an anomaly during static fire testing last year, which delayed its debut flight. However, RFA is quickly working towards another try later this year, so it may not be too long until we see the RFA.
See that? That's not great. That's not.
One rocket back on the pad. British company Orbex is working on its prime small launch vehicle set to fly in the not too distant future. An interesting feature of this rocket is that instead of having inline tanks, the fuel and oxidizer tanks are coaxial with each other. That is, they're more like a cylinder inside a cylinder rather than one tank stacked on top of the other. Orbex announced late last year that it plans for a larger medium lift launch vehicle called Proxima, so that could probably go towards Component B as well. ESA Aerospace is working on its Spectrum rocket and is the only one of all the 5 companies to actually attempt an orbital flight. Spectrum is also the first rocket to attempt to reach orbit by using propane as its fuel. ESA have been a little bit more quiet about its future plans, so it's going to be interesting to see how the company tries to meet Component B of this challenge. The pre-selection of these 5 companies now allows.
That's a lot of damn propane getting blown up right there, I tell you what, boy.
For the start of Phase 2. In this second phase, the ESA countries that host these companies will negotiate with the companies with a firm timetable and funding that will be proposed at the next Ministerial Council set to take place later this year in Bremen, Germany. This means each host country will need to come up with part of the funding required for the challenge. It also means that in the case of Germany, with 2 companies operating from there, it's going to be interesting how the country decides to fund these companies once all the formal paperwork is complete. For now though, stay up to date on NSF socials and nasaspaceflight.com. I've been Ryan Caton for NSF, thanks for watching, and goodbye.
Thank you, Ryan. That was actually pretty cool. They're doing little bite-sized segments of stuff. Maybe I'll ask and be like, yo, let me get in. I'm kind of good at that. Am I right? Or am I wrong? Or am I left? That's right. That's left. Thanks, Ryan. You're welcome. You're also right. No, you're not. You're Edicus. Think someone would do that? Just go on the internet and tell lies? So I actually had that news teed up for Space News, but Ryan explained it probably better than I could. So it looks like the ESA is doing something akin to commercial orbital transport services. COTS program that NASA originally pioneered about 15 years ago. It's what gave us SpaceX and Antares, so Northrop Grumman by proxy. Gave us Falcon 9. Antares, those are, I'm quite fond of those. So now you yap too much. Now you don't yap enough, boy. Yeah. Oh, I'm tempted to just watch it, Phil. To be honest, I'm tempted to watch that. So all right, cool. Let's what's the new NF channel? Breaking Space, I think is what it's called. So when does it not get funded and end up being canceled? I give it a couple of years. I like Ryan. He's good. Ryan's all right, man. There was an adapter. No. Sometimes I listen to you while I fall asleep. Sometimes it's the mistake of the day. Sorry. Whoa. All right, so Tori Bruno has this new shot. This is inside of the SPOC, the Spacecraft Processing and Operations Center. There, you're looking at a cell for Vulcan. That is a cool shot of the new off-vehicle integration cell at the VIF-A. Cool. Cool. Sweet. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that looks like an ex-SRB processing stool. The SPOC, the SPOC, used to be the solid rocket motor integration facility for the Titan program. So there was already cells for stacking SRBs in here. Now there's cells for Vulcan. That's actually super cool.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hey, Matt, 10-month resub. Thanks, buddy. Vulcan SF-106 has started its launch campaign. All right, we'll check that out. The certified Vulcan rocket is reporting for duty. The launch campaign has commenced at Cape Canaveral for our next generation rocket's historic mission dedicated to the U.S. Space Force. At USSF-106, or I call it just SF-106, it's way easier, will use Vulcan's high-energy capabilities to launch 2 U.S. national security satellites directly into geosynchronous orbit more than 22,000 miles above Earth. Interesting. Now, speaking of ULA and Tori Bruno has a new podcast called The Burn Sequence. And, there was a pretty good guest on
Hi,
episode
I'm Tori
2.
Bruno. I've been a rocket scientist for 40 years, and I got to tell you that every single day has been an adventure. I have gotten the opportunity to do just amazing things. I have slept on a torpedo. I have shot a bullet out of the sky with another bullet. I have stood in the middle of Armageddon with all of its terrifying and awesome power. But I have also sent a spacecraft into orbit around the sun, the fastest human object in the universe, flying directly through the literal atmosphere of the sun. There is no career like a career spent in service to this great nation, service to the awesome cause of exploration, and service to the great calling of human dignity around this planet.
Why not subscribe to ULA?
And now,
Oh,
on the burn sequence, I'm going to pull that curtain back a little bit and let you look inside. So welcome to our show, and welcome to the burn sequence.
So that's the guy that runs ULA, guys, the United Launch Alliance, the rocket that we just saw getting stacked for SF-106. He's the CEO of that of that company. Now, you heard all that stuff that Tori Bruno's talking about. Tori Bruno has been in the aerospace industry for a very, very long time. He's worked on a lot of cool things. Some of the things he mentioned. But yeah, it's pretty interesting him having a podcast. And here, look who his guest is.
Well, lately I have been thinking a lot about NASA. You know, NASA is an organization with just tremendous technical breadth and depth. There is no other institution like it in the world. They can do things that no one else can do. No company can do, no private equity investor can do. You know, they work with these people, but really NASA is the leader of all of that. They are absolutely a jewel, not just for our country, but for the whole world. And when I think about that and their exploration mission, you know, lately my mind goes right to the James Webb Telescope. That space telescope is a capability that no one could do. Only NASA could lead that, and it is leading to just amazing discoveries. You know, there is a raging, emotional debate happening in the world of cosmology right now. And if your nerd factor isn't running around 9.7, 9.8, you might not notice. It's kind of hard to tell because cosmologists, when they're yelling at each other and they're getting very emotional, it's actually difficult for normal people to actually notice that. But that's what's going on, mainly because of the data coming off of JWST. It is able to look backwards in time to the earliest earliest moments of the formation of our universe, and it's seeing things that our theories and our standard model of cosmology say shouldn't be there. And so that stimulated this huge debate. Is the age of the universe what we've always thought it was to be? Is the Hubble constant, which is the rate of expansion of our universe, is it a different rate? Have we gotten that wrong, or are we just measuring it wrong? Questions like this are being asked and debated. Is the homogeneity of the universe, is the isentropy of the universe fundamental assumptions in the standard model? Is that really true? Because we're seeing other features like massive voids and things that just would not be predicted. And God forbid, Einstein's cosmological constant, is that truly a fundamental physical constant of the universe? Or did Albert just make up a plug number so he could match the data that was coming off of Edwin Hubble's research at the time? So this is all healthy. This is actually really good.
If you understood all that, good for you.
Because that's how science works. These will be debated. People will arrive at new understandings. Consensus will be reached, and we will have a deeper understanding of our place in the universe as a result. All because NASA launched JWST and provided the astrophysicists and cosmologists with data to fuel these conversations and this deeper understanding. I also think about the way NASA builds bridges. There are countries that just have very little in common, or where they have interests, they're at odds on those interests, and they normally would not have productive or direct interactions with one another. But everybody sees the value in the inspiration of space, and over the years, NASA has brought those entities together in ways that no one else could do. I mean, even during the first Cold War, where it was the United States kind of faced off against...
First Cold War? What?
The Soviets, and there wasn't a whole lot of things we agreed upon. We could always agree on joint research in space. And NASA, the space agency, was also an agency of diplomacy. And then when I look further, I think about the soft power that NASA brings to our country. And by that, I mean, again, during the Cold War, there was a lot at stake. Would civilization survive? If it survived, who would come out on top? Would it be the philosophy that valued individual freedom and justice and dignity, or would it be an authoritarian form of government that literally enslaved its own people? And there were countries in between that needed to choose. Many wanted to choose the path of freedom, but they also knew that if they chose the losing side, there would be dire consequences. And one of the things that they looked at was technological prowess, because in an age of technology ascendancy, they knew that mattered. And NASA was our standard bearer in a way that no other entity in America could do. Their just astounding accomplishments really made that clear in a completely peaceful way, that they were free to make a choice of their own will and not have that fear. Well, today we're heading into another Cold War, this one with an authoritarian government in China. And there are countries again being pressured to head in a direction they don't want to go. This is an opportunity for NASA again. Even though there are new technologies on the floor, things like artificial intelligence and quantum computing, space remains the marquee because of its powerful symbolism, but also because of the tremendous resources, the imagination-defying abundance of rare earth metals and precious metals and other things that are in space. It is tremendously important. So the question for us now, is NASA up to it? Is NASA still relevant? Can they be that force for good and for freedom that it had been the first time around? And it turns out I have the perfect guest today to talk about that. We're going to welcome Jim Bridenstine onto the show, former NASA administrator, former congressman from Oklahoma, Navy veteran, fighter pilot, just a really great guy. And I can tell you,
Mustache.
besides all of those things on his resume, Jim is just a natural strategic thinker. He is an inspiring leader and just a wonderful person and a good friend. So I am very much looking forward to welcoming Jim Bridenstine onto the Burn Sequence. Jim, thank you for joining us on the Burn Sequence.
Well, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Jim!
All right, let's start in. I'm going to give you a
The
softball.
freaking man!
Okay.
When did you first get interested in space?
Well, I would say I didn't really start interest in space until later in my life. I grew up in wanting to be a pilot. Going back to my days in first grade, our teachers had us draw a picture of what we wanted to be when we grew up. I drew a picture of an airplane. And I had a picture of a guy there with a hat on. So in my view, in first grade, pilots wore hats. And I said, in the bottom, I said, I want to be a pilot. And I spelled it P-I-E-L-E-O-T. So that shows you, I knew how to spell pie.
Yep.
But so it's, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, I always wanted to be a pilot. And that kind of stuck with me through elementary school. And then the summer after fifth grade, the movie Top Gun came out. And that kind of just and I was worried. I was like, now everybody's going to want to be a pilot. I'll never be able to get to be a pilot. So that kind of stuck with me for my whole life. That same summer, my mom put me in and this is important for parents out there who are interested in maybe having their kids get involved in STEM. My parents put me in a 1-week summer camp where we got to play with a wind tunnel.
Oh my gosh, how cool.
Yeah, so summer after
This was fifth grade?
fifth grade year.
Oh man.
And I understood what Bernoulli's theorem was, and I understood camber and aspect ratio and all these theories of flight. And then my dad would take me to the Carswell Air Show in Fort Worth. It just kind of was a thing all my life. And then I went to Rice University, and when I graduated, as I was getting ready to graduate, I was interviewing I'd majored in economics, business, and psychology. So I had 3 majors. None of them had anything to do with aerospace. But you know, I'm interviewing with like investment banking firms and consulting firms, and I've got some really good job offers. And I called my dad, and I'm like, I'm not interested. Like, this stuff it doesn't get me going. Like, it's not what I want to do. My dad was like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, it's the same thing I always wanted to do. I want to be a pilot. And he was like, well, I didn't send you to Rice to tell me you want to be a pilot. So his advice was go talk to the recruiter. And so I went through the process. Of course, the movie Top Gun encouraged me towards the Navy, and I got accepted into officer candidate school and flight school and all those things. And off we went. So aviation has always been in my blood. Then eventually I ran for Congress. And in Congress, what I recognized pretty quickly is that a lot of congressmen are lawyers.
Yeah.
And so they
Go figure.
Yeah.
Lawmakers, lawyers.
Right.
Yeah.
So that when you start talking about technical things, and look, I was a pilot, but I wasn't an engineer. But when you start talking about technical things, they lose interest quickly. And so I realized I could have an influence there in significant ways because of my background in the Navy and having fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then that first year I was in Congress, Oklahoma got smashed by a tornado, killed dozens of people, hit an elementary school. Children were killed. It was awful. And at the time, the Suomi NPP satellite, which provides a lot of our weather data.
Yeah.
You know, when you get up in the morning, for the people that are watching, you turn on TV, you see a green blob on the screen, and it shows you where the rain is going to be.
Right.
80% of that data is coming from space.
Mm-hmm.
And that one of the satellites that produces that data, Suomi NPP, was at the end of its life. It was having problems, and the JPSS-1 satellite was delayed. And we were about to have a gap. And I ended up being chairman of the Environment Subcommittee in the House of Representatives. So all of a sudden, I start delving into this issue because every year, my constituents get killed in tornadoes.
Yeah.
So it was all of a sudden, whether I wanted to be involved in space or not, I'm now involved in space. So we put together a number of different options to try to mitigate the gap. Commercial data buys for GPS radio occultation.
Sure.
Some other things. And that kind of started me down this path of space. But I was also on the Armed Services Committee. The national security implications of space as a Navy pilot are significant.
Oh, yeah.
We were having issues there. And so then I started delving into the national security stuff deeper and deeper. And then we got to the point, and you were a big part of it, we drafted a comprehensive space reform bill called the American Space Renaissance Act. And that got the attention of a lot of people in the space industry. And I think that's kind of what prompted President Trump eventually to ask me to be the NASA administrator. So that's a much longer answer than you were looking for.
No, it's a great story.
But there's a lot in there. But how about you? I mean, what encouraged you to get active in space?
Well, I'm a little bit older than you are.
I didn't notice.
And so, thank you. I'll take that, even though it's not true. But I'm just old enough to have been 8 years old, 9 years old when the moon landing happened. And, I remember sitting cross-legged on the floor, in front of the black and white TV. We went to a neighbor's house because they had a bigger TV than we did, and they had better reception.
There you go.
And I was just captivated, and I was kind of locked in from that moment forward.
Yeah.
And so that's what got me. But, I got to ask you, so, is it harder to land on a carrier, or was it harder to land a rover on Mars?
Oh, that's interesting. So as far as flying, like the rover is all autonomous when it now make no mistake, there's amazing people that put all that together, and I am not one of them. But you can just judge based on the elation. It's crazy, they get one little blip, a signal on a screen, and everybody just goes crazy. and as the NASA administrator, you're watching that and you're realizing how much of their lives they've put into getting that one little blip on the screen. And then when I was the NASA administrator, Spirit and Opportunity were great rovers. And I was the NASA administrator when Opportunity finally died. And I went out, and it was like a funeral. It was devastating to the great folks at the JPL.
And it already lived way past its design life.
Like 15 years past. It was an amazing rover.
It was like that here. So first off, brownie points for talking about spacecraft we launched.
Okay, good. There you go.
But yeah, people were people became emotionally attached.
And just to be clear, there's only one company that's ever launched anything that landed on Mars, and it's ULA. And I don't know, you've done it 9 times, something like that at this point?
Yeah, over 9, 20 different objects, 20 missions, if we count the things that orbited Mars. Yeah, Mars is ours.
Everybody talks about Mars and what's going to happen in the future. People forget today, right now, we've got stuff on Mars doing stunning discovery. We're looking for life in river deltas that have been long dry.
Yeah.
And all of that is compliments of ULA's stunning achievement of success.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
What would you pick? The one thing that was the coolest thing you got to do as administrator?
Oh, man.
EM2.
It's interesting because a lot of people think the NASA administrator is involved deeply into missions or into science, discovery, exploration. I will tell you, if you spend 1 minute getting deep into those kind of things, you're doing the job wrong. And I know every NASA administrator is different, but I saw my job as making sure that NASA was resourced to achieve the president's agenda. That's it. And so to do that, you're working with the Office of Management and Budget, the Office of Science and Technology Policy, the National Space Council, the National Security Council, the Vice President's office, the President's office, and you're trying to get everybody aligned. You've heard what the President has said, you've seen the space policy directives, and you're trying to get a budget that reflects those objectives. And it's a very political process, even inside your own administration. And I will tell you, I loved it. Like, I really did. It was just enthralling in so many ways. Because it played to my strengths. Like, I understood enough about what NASA did and what they were trying to achieve, and I also understood how politics work.
Yeah.
Because I was in the House of Representatives. So, but after you get that budget request, and while you're working on it, you're also traveling the world, trying to get all of our international partners on board at the same time, which is not easy. A lot of people realize we have pulled the rug on our international partners on a lot of programs.
Yeah.
And so getting them to believe that we're, no kidding, going to the moon, and this time we're going to stay, and we're going to use this technology to go to Mars, and it's very real, and we're increasing our budgets to do it, and we need you to increase your budgets. The hard part for me initially was I was talking to the heads of space agencies, and after doing that for 1 year, I realized the heads of space agencies from around the globe, they take budgets. They don't make budgets.
No, they're already all in. You didn't have to convince them of anything.
They're all in. So the second year, I said, okay, no more heads of space age. I want to talk to ministers of finance. I need to talk to prime ministers, ministers of finance, the people who can set forth a budget that is commensurate with what we're trying to achieve with our international and our commercial partners. And then we had real success. And so I think all of that, I loved all of that. I would also say, after you get the international partners on board and you get a president's budget request that reflects the priorities, that's when it starts. Because now you've got to go sell it to 435 members of the House and 100 senators. So I was doing town halls. Look, I was appointed by President Trump, and I was doing town halls with Speaker Pelosi in California.
I remember that.
On Women's Equality Day.
Yeah,
we were going to the moon with the first woman. Speaker Pelosi was very supportive of that. We called the program Artemis, the goddess of the moon. And so all of those things are very, they're important for the country. They're important for the globe. President Trump was, all in, and then you had international partners jumping in behind us and getting Congress on board. Again, I did town halls with Republicans and Democrats across the country. And when COVID hit, this is interesting, Tori, I was able to do more town halls with members of Congress.
Because you could do it online. I had the same experience. Yeah, it was crazy.
I was building far more consensus in the time of COVID than I could when there wasn't COVID, which I thought was not anticipated, but still amazing. So anyway, those are some of my highlights.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, I thought you were amazing.
Well, thank you.
I personally worked with 3 administrators, and each of you were very different and brought the skills that were needed at the right time. I worked with Mike Griffin. Yep. I think you know Mike very well.
Smartest guy.
Smartest guy, rocket scientist, very technical, return to flight, the guy that we needed then.
Yep.
Charlie, astronaut, he's wonderful. And we needed you when you were administrator. And I'll tell you, I never told you this, but, I used to go on the Hill a lot. You know that. Okay. Mostly just to let people know what's going on and answer questions, that kind of thing. I always look forward to coming to your office because, as you point out, a lot of members are not as interested in the technical stuff. And we were, back there because we were developing a new rocket and we were doing.
Didn't mention Bill Nelson. Interesting.
Missions were important to people, and so they wanted to be statused on that stuff by, the launch company, which is all rocket science, which, they, bless their hearts, they wanted to know, but it was hard to hold their attention. Yeah. And I go, I get to go see Jim. He loves this stuff.
I do. I was kind of and just, I loved it when you can't, because I would learn. Like, that's how, as a member of Congress, you bring in experts and CEOs from companies that are doing amazing things. Those meetings, like, there's a lot of meetings you get from across your constituency.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of them you take because you have to. But whenever you came, it was, I just loved it because I'd learned so much. And by the way, your hearings, you were not shy in those hearings about telling members of Congress exactly what they needed to hear. Transitioning to, for example, the EELV program at the time, now NSSL program. I remember being stunned when members of Congress were telling you that we need you to keep the Delta IV Heavy going, but we also need it to be commercial. And I remember you saying, you can't do both. If you want us to be competitive commercially, we got to do something else. And interestingly, they would fight you on it. And they wanted both ends of, they wanted the Delta IV Heavy, but they also wanted you to compete commercially. And most people come into Congress and tell them what they want to hear, you were very firm and direct and said, that's not going to work for us, and we will retire the Delta IV Heavy. And I was kind of surprised because that's not what you get from a lot of people. What we need now more than ever in the space industry in general are truth tellers. We got a lot of people that will tell whoever, whatever they want to hear, knowing full well that it's not true, that it's not achievable, that it's going to go way over cost, can't be done. But it's what somebody wants to hear, and so they go along with it. And you always told the truth, and I was grateful for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I never felt that I was a good lobbyist, and at least in the way people think lobbyists work, where you go in and you convince them of some partisan position. I always felt like, what I'm going to be better at is just explaining these complicated things and trying to be as honest as I can.
Yep.
So that's how I approached it. I think, Jim, that you were a very inspirational leader as the head of NASA. You talked about making NASA work and getting NASA the resources it required and all those big policy things. But you just had a way of making these missions so relatable and so inspirational. You didn't just capture heads of finance. You got the whole country, really the whole world, inspired about NASA again and that broader space mission. I really admired you for that.
It's interesting. I would tease inside the NASA headquarters, win the crowd, win the freedom. Yeah, I don't know if you watched the movie Gladiator. If you win the crowd, you'll win your freedom. And I would say, look, if we win the crowd, we'll win the budget. We've got to do stunning things. People need to know that America is back. We're going to do big things. We're going to the moon. We're going to Mars. American greatness is going to be reestablished, but you got to win the crowd. And so we worked hard on that. We did social media really strongly. Every chance I got, I would go on TV and explain why we were doing what we were doing. But it was a lot of fun. It was tiring trying to do it while you're traveling and visiting all the NASA centers and all the congressional districts and internationally. But I'll tell you, like I said, it was enthralling. I loved it. It was hard. I was younger then. I had more hair then. It was stressful, but I think we ended up in a pretty good spot at the end. I will tell you, I've been terribly disappointed with the flattened NASA budgets over the last 5 years.
Oh, yes.
25% inflation and a flat NASA budget. What does that do? It crushes momentum. It makes our international partners concerned. We've got to get that back, and I know we see from members of Congress, and I think we're going to see the administration, support a lot of what Congress is doing in the reconciliation bill to get those budgets back where they need to be.
Well, I hope so, because I feel the same way. I think there are people out there who just don't appreciate the tremendous breadth and depth that NASA has, that the missions that no one else could do but NASA, no one. And they think that maybe a private company can come in or we'll sprinkle some private equity investment on something and that'll just do what NASA can do. I don't believe that. And I wonder how you feel about it.
So I think it's a mix. I think there are things that can and should be commercialized. And I know you feel the same way with how we do commercial crew to the International Space Station.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're excited about Vulcan being certified for that eventually, and Starliner being ready to fly again, and all those things I think are critically important. But I think in any scenario, if you're going to buy a service instead of hardware, which I think is the direction a lot of things are going now, given the commercial capabilities that are out there. If you're going to buy a service instead of hardware, you have to have multiple providers. They have to compete on cost and innovation and safety. By the way, you can tell me better than I know, how many successful flights has ULA had in a row?
Oh, I guess we're 165.
And we're going to knock on some wood as we say this.
But that's
that's a stunning achievement in itself. And so, we need people competing on cost and innovation and safety. We need multiple providers, and those providers need to go get customers that are not always NASA. And to the extent that we achieve that, when we think about, for example, the ULA backlog and how many launches we have going forward, how many total launches have we sold already for Vulcan?
Just for Vulcan?
Yeah, just for Vulcan.
It's 90.
90.
Over 90.
So that takes us through what, 2028, 2029?
It'll take us to 2029.
Okay. Again, that's a lot of, so again, you're getting customers that are not the U.S. government.
Right.
That drives down the cost to the taxpayer. It increases
yeah.
access to space.
He's right.
So it's a blend. You've got to do
He's
both.
right.
You've got to have commercial.
I agree.
Yeah.
And, you know, we, historically, we were a government provider.
Yeah.
And I agree with you that competition is so healthy
Yes.
for both parties. When you're the buyer, you've got choices, and you've got people who are really, really interested in doing better for you every year. When you're a company, if you don't have competition, it's really hard to invest in technology and innovation because you have to go in front of owners or a board or investors and say, hey, I'm going to spend $200 million on this thing. And they go, cool. And what advantage will that provide? What's going to be different after you do it? And when you're a sole source provider in an environment where there is no competition, a lot of times you have to say,
Right.
it'll be about the same. We'll continue to do all the missions for our customer. And it's hard. It's a hard sell. But when you have that environment with competition, you can justify that, and it really drives innovation. It's good for the company. It's good for the customer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. And that competition, I think, is important, whether it's launch, whether it's, space stations that are coming next, whether it's access to the moon. Anytime, and I've always said, government monopolies are necessary in some circumstances.
They
when
are.
you think about the defense of the nation, for example.
Sure.
There are times when you need government to be the lead. There are other times, in my view, where you want to get private capital and you want to get those innovators from the venture world or from the private
Sure.
equity world, and blending all that together, I think is what differentiates us today from where we were even 15 or 20 years ago.
I think so. And you said it right. It's a blend. I'll say the bad tendency I often observe when I'm in the government working hard problems with people is this temptation, this black hole draw to the easy button.
Yeah.
What's the one thing I can do? And now this problem is solved, and I'll move on to something else. And it's almost never like that in these big complex, environments. You need both. You need private investment. You need missions that are now where technologies are mature enough, the industry's mature enough to hand it over as a service. But if you don't have a bunch of missions that nobody can do but NASA's not doing its job.
That's right. Right. No, that's right. So NASA should be considering, how do we move forward and do things for which there's nothing commercial yet available?
Exactly.
And how do we commercialize the things that we've already proven are possible?
Right.
So low Earth orbit, I think, is commercializable. Make no mistake, there's going to be a need for government activity there 100%. But there's a lot of commercial benefits to microgravity and other things. So I think there's going to be a blend. I would also say it's important to recognize we don't like government monopolies. Bad. The only thing worse than a government monopoly is a private monopoly that the government is dependent on, where the private monopoly has purchasing power over the American taxpayer.
Right.
Or pricing power over the American. So
It's almost like I've said that like many times on stream. Been saying that for a good while, for like the last 10 years. Jeez. Smell that, chat? It smells like vindication.
in all circumstances, when it comes to space, when it comes to national security, when it comes to these important missions, the government has to play a role. But it's also true, we have got to figure out how to bring more innovation in, and that's happening every day, and we're seeing it more and more.
Well, it's the great power of our system that countries like China and like Russia don't have.
That's right.
That government private industry partnership where we can bring in that innovation, those crazy ideas that are not directed downwards in a control economy like we see over there. So yeah, I agree. And it's no secret, ULA had been a monopoly. It was a monopoly because there was only one domestic provider capable.
Right.
And I came here because that was changing, and I embraced that. I thought it was good for the country. It was going to be good for us.
And it's a tough corner to turn.
Yeah, it was real
and I
hard.
watched it when I was in the House of Representatives. I watched it, and it's a tough corner to turn when you have that type of monopolistic position. They bring you in as a
Hey,
CEO and
Shenrir.
they say, okay, now we're going to be cost competitive, and we're going to be, and
Oh.
and you said,
Okay. Oh, why do I always
Okay,
pause
we
on
need-
weird things? Okay, cool. Shen, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for the raid, man. How you doing? Dude, I've been super out of the loop because I went on vacation last week, so I don't even know what you were up to. What were you up to, dude? Let me know. What's up, Shenmue Raiders? How you guys doing? If you don't know me, I'm EJ. I'm doing my space news segment on my stream where we talk about what's going on in the industry. There is a podcast called The Burn Sequence that's hosted by a CEO of a company called United Launch Alliance. His name's Tory Bruno, and he's interviewing an ex-NASA administrator, Jim Bridenstine, somebody that we're quite fond of here. He likes space things, so we like space things too. You know, it kind of works. Anyway, guys, what's going on? Over on YouTube, if you're really confused right now, I got a raid from another channel, my buddy Shenrir. He's been streaming pretty much as long, if not longer, than me. Yeah, Ari, we will. What's going on? Guys, what was Shen up to? They're much more competitive on the inside than you might think. Clodrick, we're not, the China thing isn't to mock them. I just think that's funny. So, try again. Good, was wondering what the heck was a rocket review. It's my space news segment. Daily space news segment. Geek! 74 month research, the Bridenstiner. Shen, how long you been streaming? He was fighting for the independence of India in Victoria 3. That... Yeah, that probably was a hard one. Did you succeed? 2013? Yeah, dude, I started streaming in December of 2012, so I'm right there with you, man. We've both been streaming about the same amount of time. We've been coming to the same party for the last 12 years, and that is in no way sad. Oh boy. Anyway, Shenry, you guys go give Shen a follow. He's playing some Vicky 3. Vicky 3s. Go give him a follow. He's a good dude. Trust me. OG streamer. Like you okay. All right. Unlike me, Shen plays video games. Like I do too, but you know, like there's this thing. I know it's kind of a rarity on Twitch nowadays, somebody playing video games on here, but that's what we do. Britain didn't fight us. They had a 30% chance to give us independence, so now you are. Oh, all right. Nice. Cool. Cool. Awesome, man. Well, it's good to see you, dude. Thanks for raiding me, man. I appreciate it. Shen, you know the drill. You take some time off from streaming, right? You come back and, you know, your numbers are in the toilet for a couple of days, so that boost is a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. Got it, right? Right? Damn, it's so tiresome. So tiresome. Hope your vacation birthday was good. Oh, it was awful. Yeah, it's really bad. Just got home from my vacay. You watched birthday yourself. Nice, dude. Tory Bruno. So check this out, Geek, and everybody else, and all the Shenmue Raiders. Tory Bruno is doing a podcast called The Burn Sequence. Look who the guest was on this week's podcast. Any plans for after hours? Yeah, I think we'll do something. We'll see. All right.
Need a new rocket.
Let's get back to
you're
it.
telling members of Congress things they don't want to hear, and you're saying if this is the new world, we're going to compete.
Yeah, let's back it up a little bit to make sure we're
Representatives. I watched it, and it's a tough corner to turn when you have that type of monopolistic position. They bring you in as a CEO and they say, okay, now we're going to be cost competitive, and we're going to be, and you said, okay, we need a new rocket, and you're telling members of Congress things they don't want to hear, and you're saying if this is the new world, we're going to compete, and You've done it. You've done it. So,
So far, so
congratulations.
good.
Yeah.
Knocking on the
There's
cup
more to
here.
do. There's always more to do, but that's the glory of a competitive world.
So I got one more heavy question for you.
Okay.
Is it important that we return people to the moon, and is it important that we in America do that before China?
Yeah. 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 Yes, it is. That's the short answer. Jim's probably going to give a little more eloquent answer than me, but yes. 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 Yeah. Fire at will, Commander. No, stop. She said stop. Should we still do it? Yeah. Yeah.
The answer to that question for both is yes, and there's a lot of reasons. The value of the moon, there's so many different values to the moon, but we talk about natural resources. There's been a lot of talk recently about natural resources in Ukraine or natural resources in Greenland. People don't realize there's tremendous amounts of natural resources on the moon. Rare earth metals, although in this case they'd be rare lunar metals, platinum group metals.
Yeah.
These are, in most cases, we're talking about asteroid impacts.
Right.
The challenge with the Earth,
Helium-3.
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 Exactly. And we need to do a whole show on that maybe in the future.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Jimmy.
You're probably one of the only podcasters that can probably delve into the technology behind all of that. So that will be fun.
Jim.
And by the way,
Call
I
me.
want to be on that podcast because
Call
I'm
me.
you, not the other way around, just so you're aware. But when we think about the Earth, rarely does something impact the Earth from space because we've got a thick atmosphere. When something does impact the Earth, we've got this active geology.
Yep, geology eats it
up, and something that impacted the Earth 1 billion or 2 billion years ago is now in trace amounts if you can find it at all.
Right.
And the moon doesn't have an atmosphere. It's being pelted all the time.
I'll figure it
The
out
Lunar
then.
Reconnaissance Orbiter, as it's going around the moon, we're looking at new images all the time. And you go over the same spot twice, and it never looks the same.
Yeah. Launched that one too, by the way.
There you go. Go ULA. So the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter is evidence that the moon is constantly being pelted.
Right.
And the Earth and
this is
the moon are
space.
assisted,
I'm in
so
space.
we're flying through the same space at the same time. And when we go through an asteroid field, we go together, and those asteroids don't hit the Earth; they hit the moon. That's where the rare lunar metals would come from, platinum group metals. And so I think it's important for us to recognize we could find large deposits there. Now, are we too early to go out and grab them and bring them home? Yes, but we didn't create the CLIPS program for no reason, Commercial Lunar Payload Services. We created CLIPS because we want commercial companies to have access to the lunar surface.
Right.
Not just to get rare earth metals or rare lunar metals or platinum group metals, not just to get helium-3, but of course the water ice, hydrogen is fuel, oxygen is air. So all of those reasons I think it's important, but I would also say the value of the moon goes beyond the surface of the moon. The value of the moon includes Lagrangian points, which are points in space where you can stay for long periods of time. Maybe you can tell me about the
I
Lagrangian.
can tell you all about it.
But
Yeah.
the interaction between the Earth's gravity well and the moon's gravity well creates these opportunities to, quite frankly, hide in space for long periods of time.
Yes.
And our enemies are taking advantage of that. And it's not just those L points, but it's also like rectilinear halo orbits and other capabilities, mass volumes of space. In space, we need sensors, we need communication capability, we need navigation capability, and we need it in deep space around these very, a lot of tension right now on Iran.
Yes.
And a lot of attention because of that on the Strait of Hormuz. As a Navy pilot, I can tell you, we got to have the Strait of Hormuz free. At some points, as much as 40% of the world's oil supply went through the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
If you disrupt that, you fundamentally bring America to its knees. And so we've got to keep the Strait of Hormuz clear. And that same with the Strait of Gibraltar or the Strait of Malacca. Like, as a Navy guy, these are very important to me.
Dang, Malacca.
But when we think about the future, these L points, these Lagrangian points in space, are going to be very similar.
Yes.
We have got to know what's going on there. We've got to make sure that we have not just knowledge of what's going on there, but we've got to be able to assess intentions and respond if necessary. Look, if you can attack from above, you can attack without warning. And
Right.
Chance Saltzman very adeptly put forth the theory of competitive endurance. And, the number one thing is avoid operational surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
That's fair.
Quite frankly, we're not there yet.
Nope.
But with the investments that America will make, and of course with the launches from ULA
And others.
we're going to get there. So
Yeah,
the
I
moon is
agree.
critically important for a lot of reasons economically, for a lot of reasons on the exploration and discovery side. But I would say overwhelmingly it's important for national security and defense.
Oh, I agree. And what an opportunity also for humanity. The abundance of natural resources on the moon and the near-Earth objects just outside the moon's orbit are imagination defying. The history of conflict on this planet is completely dominated by competition for resources. And here is wealth beyond anyone's wildest dreams. And if we allow an authoritarian government, for example, to control that opportunity is denied humanity.
That's right.
So there's a bigger picture here.
Yeah. Can I bring up something that you're
So like maybe we should do that instead of talking about it. Like maybe we should do it. Maybe we should like do that or something. If it's so important, like maybe we should be doing like more of that. I mean, I'm just putting it out there. Like that'd probably be a good idea.
your audience needs to know?
Yes,
Okay.
please do.
So
Feed me, Jim.
I haven't done a lot of media or podcasts since I left NASA, but I am super excited about the burn sequence. I'm episode 2.
You are.
Who was episode 1?
General Les Lyles.
Les Lyles. Okay, so I'm happy to be number 2 to Les Lyles. I'm not insulted at all. But if it was anybody else, it'd be a problem. But I would say I love this cup. It is just so everybody can, I don't know if you can zoom in on this or not, but it's a picture of a dude on a horse with a cowboy hat and a lot of fire behind him coming out of a rocket. And one thing that I appreciated when I was the NASA administrator, and I got lots of comments on it, whenever we would come down for a launch, a ULA launch, whether it was Parker Solar Probe or something else, Ingenuity, Perseverance, whatever it was, we would always tool around the rocket with your cowboy hard hat. And I would get so many comments on social media about how come you don't have a cowboy hard hat? And I've got to get one. So at some point, I'm anticipating that you will allow me to get that cowboy hard hat, which of course is what you're wearing likely on this horse on this cup. Tell me if it's all right. Why are you on a horse and why do you wear a cowboy hard hat?
Oh, well, I have horses.
Okay.
I grew up on a ranch and dreaming about space.
There you go.
And so now I get to do that work, but I also get to still have a little bit of property and my horses. And when I'm home on a weekend and I get a little bit of time, that's where I'm at.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I got to ask you, like, one kind of important question related to that. So are you familiar with the parody Twitter account, Tory Bruno's Mustache?
I've heard of that. It's been a long time. I've heard of that.
Because I heard a rumor that you knew
Yeah.
something about it.
Yeah. Was that the Perseverance launch, I think?
Yeah, probably. It was COVID. That's why I had the big handlebar
Yep.
mustache.
Yep, it was. Yeah, no kidding. COVID. That's the challenge with Perseverance. Mars 2020. Mars and Earth are on the same side of the sun once every 26 months.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter if COVID hits, you still got to launch.
Right.
And that was a challenging time because everybody was shutting down everything, all of our suppliers, and we still had to deliver Perseverance and get it launched. ULA was tremendous in all that. You guys got it done. It worked. I would also say, that whole mustache thing. I remember because we took off our masks.
Mm-hmm.
We took off our masks, and you had this massive handlebar mustache, which I had never seen before. And one of my social media guys at NASA created a Tory Bruno's mustache account, and we'll just say it was a pretty popular account.
Yes, it was.
And Tory Bruno's mustache had quite a personality. So
I think he may have had more followers than I did at one point.
that very well could be. It was gaining quickly.
I got to move to the lightning
Okay,
round.
lightning round.
I'm going to offer you two things. You got to pick one.
Oh,
You
no.
can explain why if you want to, but you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
So you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Kirk or Spock?
Oh, Barf the Mog. I'm a fan of Spaceballs. Barf the Mog is my favorite character. He's half man, he's half dog.
Yes, I love Bart.
He's his own best friend.
He's his own best friend.
Yep.
So I don't know if that probably doesn't count. I'd go with Kirk. Kirk is the leader of the Starship Enterprise. Amazing leader.
Well, who else
But-
would a fighter pilot choose?
Yeah, but I will tell you, you've really. I mean, there is no character in all of sci-fi like Barf the Mog. So
That
he's-
is very true.
Yeah.
All right. Teddy Roosevelt or JFK?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Oh my goodness. So I got to go JFK, and I'm going to tell you why. I went to that university in Houston, Rice University on South Main. Go Owls, hoot!
Oh, yeah.
We won the Southwest Conference Championship in football in 1994. We won the College World Series in 2003. And of course, John F. Kennedy came to Rice to give the moon speech, the famous moon speech,
Oh, yes,
1962. And in that speech, he's talking about all the hard things we do. You know, why fly across the ocean? Why climb a mountain? You know, why go to the moon? We do these things because they're hard. In there, everybody forgets this. He says, "Why does Rice play Texas?" and of course, the answer is because we win. That's why Rice plays Texas. 1994, I was on the sidelines when Rice beat Texas in football. It was a glorious day, and so I give JFK credit for that 1994 victory over Texas.
Outstanding.
There you go.
Can't beat that.
Yeah.
All right. Perseverance or Parker Solar Probe?
Perseverance.
I'm gonna go with Perseverance.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I really think there's so much going on Mars that is going to be transformational how we view ourselves. I know it's lightning round, but I got to pause here. When I was the NASA administrator, it wasn't that much time, but in those years, we found that Mars has methane cycles that match the seasons.
Right.
That's stunning. It could be geological, but it could be biological. We saw methane plumes that were of such size that a lot of folks were saying that can't be geological, not that we know of. In other words, it would be biological.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then we discovered, of course, complex organic compounds all over the surface of Mars, the building blocks for life. And for the first time, we found that there's liquid water 12 kilometers under the surface. Anywhere there's liquid water on Earth, there's life. Is that true on Mars? We don't know, but we should find out. So all these things. And then after I left, NASA put out a research paper not too long ago, and they said that there's enough liquid water on Mars that if you brought all that liquid water to the surface, it would cover the surface in an ocean that would be, I don't remember what the number was, but it was multiple kilometers deep.
Yes.
And it's liquid. That is an amazing piece of information. So I love the Parker Solar Probe flying through the solar corona, through the sun's atmosphere. Again, stunning achievements. We need to understand the sun because when we go to the moon, those corona mass ejections or solar flares, you know, they can be very dangerous for our astronauts when they're not protected from the magnetosphere that we have here on Earth. So we've got to understand the sun. We've got to be able to predict all those things. But it's also true that once you're on the moon, in many ways you can be protected by getting under.
Yes, you can.
Under the surface. But all that to say, I think if we make a discovery on Mars that I think is possible we could make, it will forever change how we see space exploration. And I think the NASA budget and other budgets are going to go through the roof. Because people are going to want to know, okay, well, if there's life on the planet that's closest to us,
Yeah.
what else is out there? Then you start looking at the moons of Jupiter and the moons of Saturn. There's lots of opportunity for life out there.
A watershed moment in human history.
Watershed, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. Got it.
Well, we'll make sure that Nikki Fox does not see this episode.
Right.
Or the version we send to her. We'll dub over you. Alexis will come in and say, Parker Solar Probe.
There you go. Some AI function.
All right. Okay. Delta IV Heavy or Vulcan?
Delta IV Heavy.
I'm going Vulcan.
Jim!
Look, the Vulcan is the future.
No!
Our country's going to need it. It's going to be launching all of our most important national security capabilities. High energy orbits.
This is space. I'm in space.
It's critical to the security of the country. Not that Delta IV
Damn it,
wasn't.
Jim.
It was as well. But the Vulcan's going to be competitive for a long time.
Yeah.
Driving down costs, increasing access, all those things are important. So I'm going Vulcan.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I'll miss Delta IV Heavy. I miss her already.
Yeah.
You know, the
Orange
metal ball
rocket,
rockets
good!
Set herself on fire before she left the pad. And last, Coke or Mountain Dew?
Mountain Dew.
I'm going to go, I got to go Mountain Dew Baja Blast Zero Sugar.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
my new go-to. Now,
All right.
I would have said when I was the NASA administrator, Diet Mountain Dew. I go Mountain Dew in general, but Diet Mountain Dew. But now it has switched over to Mountain Dew Baja Blast Zero Sugar. It's like the nectar of the gods.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All right. Since we're over time, I'm going to tell you one quick little story.
I'm thrilled.
I probably shouldn't because I'm going to talk about a guy
Awesome.
and I don't have his permission.
Uh-oh.
But you know how I love coming to see you because you love space. There was another guy in the administration who also loved space. You know, Secretary of Commerce. Remember Wilbur Ross?
I do, yeah.
We'd come into his office and, you know, he'd been doing commerce stuff all day, you know, banking and things that were in his portfolio like salmon fishing rights and crazy stuff like that. But he also had NOAA. And we'd walk through the door and his staff would roll their eyes and hang their head because he would sit there the rest of the day with me talking about rockets, blow up his entire calendar. And it was like that when I came to see you too. So
Yeah.
thank you for
well,
that.
thank you for saying that. And yes, Wilbur Ross was an amazing secretary, and we actually worked on a lot of things together. Secretary of Commerce, NASA administrator, we're all trying to develop American industry.
Yeah.
And he was keenly focused on all of the activities that NASA was doing and how do we lead commercially in space and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
he was great.
Yeah,
and
he
so
was.
were you. Thank you
well.
for your leadership.
Thank you for yours. It's been great being on your podcast. Let's do it again.
Yeah, we'll do one just on helium-3.
We'll do
Fun
it.
fact, Minmus
All right,
contains
Jim.
no mint. It's frozen Mountain Dew Baja Blast.
Jim, thanks
Thank you.
again.
You bet.
All right, so that was a really fun conversation with Jim. I could talk to Jim all day long, but now we're done. Maybe we'll bring him back another time. But for now, we are exiting the burn sequence. Thank you for joining us. Like and subscribe.
I miss Jim. I miss Jim a lot. I mean, guys, like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Jim could be a NASA administrator again. Like, there's nothing saying that you can. It's really up to the big guy up there, up at the White House, to really want that to happen. But you notice how they didn't mention Bill, which is I started out when Bill first became NASA administrator. He didn't do too bad, but I'd say by around 2022, 2023, I was starting to be like, that's not cool. Please don't do that. You know, yeah. Yeah, I would say that canceling MSR and replacing it with a planning committee for MSR and then giving them millions of dollars was a strategic misstep. And then canceling Viper, also a strategic misstep. We're still dealing with the repercussions of that. Laying off like 400 people at JPL, like right after COVID, that was also uncool. Canceling Chandra, that was also not cool either. Yeah, that was also wrong. Yeah, that was not cool. Yeah, there's a lot of things that made me feel like there was a bit of Jim or Tori feeling out the other for Jim working for ULA. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, Jim was clearly at Tori Bruno's office for a reason, dude, so. No, Kai Fox, no company will take it. Nobody wants NASA's table scraps, dude. Not like that. It's gonna sit in a facility until it's scrapped. Which kills me to say. But anyway, that's the burn sequence. That was super cool. That was super good. I kind of perused over episode 1, but now I'm gonna go back and watch it. But yeah, that was a little bit of a detour for space news, but I could see Jim being a lobbyist. That's basically what he does nowadays, Dave. I would call canceling MSR for an MSR committee money laundering. Yeah, I would. Yeah, or embezzlement. Yeah, that's pretty uncool. Yeah, that's on the United Launch Alliance YouTube channel, guys. Not very cash money, but the burn sequence is, so that's super cool. I'll let you guys know when episode 3 comes out. I'm back. Are you gonna end the stream soon? No? Do you want me to end the stream soon? Did you eat? Yeah, yes. No, it's just asking just to make sure. Okay, I'll keep going then. Anyway, we got an update here from Blue. Let's see what we got here. Blue says, we've successfully manufactured and integrated the propellant tanks into the propulsion module of Blue Ring's first flight vehicle. A significant milestone enabling our dual propulsion system as we make progress towards full vehicle integration. The team has completed 6 additional tank builds and is well on their way to completing 5 more, all destined for integration onto our Blue Ring spacecraft. Yeah, okay. So if that doesn't look like much, it isn't much right now. But if you guys don't know what Blue Ring is, it's essentially a timeshare, not a timeshare, mixed use satellite. Like, you know how in architecture there's a mixed use building, so it's a building that could have apartments and a store in it and an industrial space in the back or whatever, you know, and a pool. It's got free real estate. It's got a pool in the back. The satellite is basically a mixed use satellite. It can basically do a bunch of different functions and do whatever you want it to do. It can be used as an orbital tug. It can be used as a satellite. You can do whatever you want with it. Blue Ring is one of the many programs at Blue Origin that we really don't hear too much about, but there was a Blue Ring Pathfinder that was on the first New Glenn mission. So yeah, good progress from them. Hopefully this ends up going on a New Glenn flight soon or something. That'd be pretty cool. Anyway, let's pump over to our buddies over at Vast here. Haven Demo moves into the thermal vacuum chamber, TVAC, where we simulate the extreme temperatures.
Go at throttle up.
Yuck! 124-month resub. Where we simulate the extreme temperatures and vacuum conditions of space. This test allows our team to replicate vehicle operations in space and gain valuable insights that will help us prepare for the Haven Demo in orbit. All right. That is the demo satellite. Basically, that's going to demonstrate a bunch of technologies that prove out that the spacecraft, the space station module will work. Cool. There's a lot of, no, that's not tinfoil. Okay, it's multi-layer insulation, MLI. Okay, multi-layer insulation, space blanket. Okay, differences. What do you think about the adapter for Starship OLM? I'm getting to it. How about the BPS Space Static Fire? I hadn't planned on showing it, but Joe did static fire it, which is pretty cool. Anyway, next bit of news. Looks like Reynolds to you. Whoop. It's not. So, my buddy Max, that I just say is my buddy, but I actually want to, like, kick him in the face in Minecraft. No, I'm just kidding. Max is my buddy. Posted this from the KSC press site. Mobile Launcher 2, designed and built to support SLS Block 1B, completed stacking earlier this month with its 10th and final module being lifted into place. Now at its full height, work will continue on Mobile Launcher 2's internals and umbilical structures. That thing actually came together pretty quick. Pretty good. Oh, eye candy. Hello. Hello. Whoosh. Let's see the close-up of it. What's the difference from MLI and Myler? The name. So Bechtel did something quick. Outdoorsman, guys. Oh, this is such an unpopular opinion with everybody, that, like, all space fans. But to be 100% honest with you, the more and more I read about this, guys, the more and more I understand why this thing ended up costing $1 billion. Now, is that because Bechtel likes to milk contracts? Well, historically speaking, yes, sure, absolutely. That definitely has something to do with it. But I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Mobile Launcher 2 is designed for SLS Block 1B and Block 2. Two rockets, or two variants of a rocket, that doesn't exist. It's really hard to build a launch pad for a vehicle that does not exist. Especially when you have upper level weight limits on what can be moved around on NASA's crawlerway. So what you're looking at here is what's called a mobile launcher. Just in case anybody doesn't understand what this thing does, this whole building, this whole thing, the whole tower can move. The whole tower can move, and it can go inside of those gigantic gray doors inside of the VAB. It's moved by a gigantic tracked transport vehicle called a crawler transporter. Crawler transporter drives underneath this, picks it up. It has adjustable ride height. It picks it up, and then it moves it into the doors here, into what's called a high bay inside of the VAB. The whole damn pad moves. There are weight limits for how much a crawler transporter can use, or how much it can move. Its weight is capped at about 16 million pounds before it quite actually will sink into the swamp. Now, with all that being said, the rocket SLS is probably 8 to 9 million pounds, maybe 10 million, depending on, if the design was finalized. Maybe, we don't know. So that leaves you a very finite margin of building a launch pad that's designed to withstand 35 meganewtons of thrust, more than a Saturn V, right? and also be one of the most launch one of the most complicated vehicles around. Remember, the mobile launcher needs all the paraphernalia for launching the core stage and the SRBs, 4 shuttle engines. And then you have your ground umbilical carrier plate, has-gas lines, EUSU, the European the exploration upper stage umbilicals,
Go at throttle up.
exploration upper stage vent lines, crew access arm, OSA adapter, USA adapter, their vehicle stabilization system. That is the most complicated part of the entire it is a launch pad that moves. So it's probably the most complicated one we've made since the Saturn V by a long shot. Now, with all that being said, let's say the rocket, right? Let's say the rocket weighs, let's say Block 1B weighs somewhere in the ballpark of 9 to 10 million pounds. Crawler transporter can only move 16. That leaves 7 million pounds for a structure that needs to withstand a nuclear blast worth of overpressure events. You saw the Artemis 1 mission. If you didn't, it made a gigantic mushroom cloud out the flame deflector. It was pretty cool, actually. So you need to make an object that is somewhere on par with something that can be basically nuclear, biological, chemical resistant, right? And it needs to also be the lightest thing that has ever moved down the crawler way, save for a shuttle mobile launcher platform. Right? So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's not entirely Bechtel's fault. It's really the result of basically piss poor planning. Because for some reason we decided to build the launch pad for a rocket that doesn't exist. And nobody seemed to think that, the crawler transporter has a maximum weight capacity, and carrying around a rocket with 2 fueled solid rocket boosters on it might, exceed the weight limits. So Mobile Launcher 2, if you look at how it's put together, it is a completely different design. Now you have to get into aerospace engineering because you have an upper weight limit, and you do not know how much that damn rocket is going to weigh. So I don't really blame, Bechtel isn't entirely at fault here. You have to make the strongest mobile launcher that's also the lightest mobile launcher around. That's why if you look, it's all triangulated pipes instead of I-beams like the older designs. This thing has to be stronger, but it also has to be lighter than every other mobile launcher that we've ever made, going all the way back to the Saturn V. That's why this project ended up being $1 bajillion, because at the end of the day, you cannot make a launch pad for a rocket that doesn't exist. Are the ML2 segments heavier than the Starship Pad B tower segments? Probably not. Solution, uprate the crawler. They already did. CT2 as part of the Constellation program was basically refurbished and retooled in the late 20-aughts. Aqualux to be able to withstand an Ares 5. And then we canceled Constellation and promptly abandoned CT1 because it can't move around any SLS components. The more you know. They already did that. Uprate it again. You can't. It'll fall through the crawlerway, dude. The crawlerway was made with an upper limit of 16 million pounds. That was enough. The Apollo engineers thought that would be more than enough to move like a Saturn or a Nova rocket or even that Class 1 rocket that we were talking about. It would have been enough to move all that, but the thing about solid rocket boosters is that each one of those segments, guys, is like 250 tons. You heard that right. Solid rocket boosters are extremely heavy and really difficult to move around. Did you just make a good case for building a new crawler transport? It's not the crawler transporter at the end of the day, Edmana. It's the crawler way. You can't move something 16 plus million pounds, or like I said, it will actually fall into the swamp. I said you couldn't build a mobile launcher in a swamp, but I built it anyway. It fell into the swamp. Now, if you guys want to make the argument that we should build another Complex 39-esque building with a uprated crawlerway. Yeah, sure. Maybe we should start with getting the one that we have already working. It's probably a good place to start. So the crawler road was not designed with solid rockets in mind. No, it was not, John. The only reason why it worked really well with the shuttle program is because the shuttle program had mobile launcher platforms, not mobile launchers. It had MLPs. Hey, Martin, tier 1 6 months in advance, dude. Thank you very much. That helps me out something fierce, dude. Take care. Yeah, you too. So the shuttle mobile launchers didn't have this big tower segment on it, and solids were okay because that thing is heavy, but solids were also heavy, and it actually pushed. It ended up being about the same as moving a Saturn V. It was a really easy thing to just switch over to because the shuttle couldn't have a service structure on the mobile launcher. The reason why is because the shuttle, well, I don't know if you guys remember a shuttle stack, there's a big, gigantic 60-ton space plane hanging off of the side. And because of this, the shuttle actually skewed off the pad a little bit. Like when it goes to launch, because the engines were on one side and how force gets distributed tangent or cosine to the force of gravity, right? The shuttle will translate a little bit. It'll go a little sideways off the pad. True story. So you couldn't put a service structure behind the dang thing, or else it would tip it on the way up. That's why they moved the service structure to the left of the shuttle instead of behind it like it was on the Saturn V's. Actually, what NASA did in the late 70s was cut up the tower from the mobile launcher and just place it on the pad. That's basically what they did to retool for the shuttle. But yeah, the Apollo engineers didn't take into account that you might need to move something fueled out of there because the Apollo engineers, frankly, von Braun didn't like solid rocket boosters. So the Apollo stuff was quite literally designed to move an empty booster because you'd fuel it out on the pad. Oh. Mama. Still based. Dude, Von Braun knew what he was doing, man. Like, you could say whatever you want about that guy and you'd probably be right, but god damn was he a good systems engineer. Dude, the guy, like, knew it cold. Like, to a level that's frankly ridiculous. Like, the way the proverbial puzzle pieces of the Apollo program fit together so well was entirely due to that man right there. And I'm not trying to make any other point, like, oh, I get his history, I know where he came from, I understand that, but the rocket engineering is so goddamn good, dude. It's so good. The Apollo fit together like a finely tuned, the Apollo rockets fit together like a finely tuned machine. Like perfect mechanical synthesis. It's unbelievable how well that stuff fits together. Crawlerway limits are a PSI limit. Spread it over an extra pair of crawler bogies, and maybe the max weight you can move goals again. Nope. Not gonna work. You crush the rocks, remember? Not gonna work that way, dude. There's a wear item on the crawlerway. You crush the Tennessee River rock. That's what absorbs all the load. Putting another set of tracks on is not going to do anything. You're just going to drag the last bit of tracks in the mud, man. Fit together like paper and a paperclip. Yeah. Yeah. Like, this architecture is so well thought out. It's unbelievable. Didn't Apollo have an issue with square and circle attachment issues? Yeah, it did, but that was on Apollo 13, Matt Strat, and I don't think the original engineering took into account that somebody might drop the oxygen tank and then put it in the vehicle and crack the Teflon seal and then just not tell anybody about it. Those fittings are never designed to fit together because I don't think they were taking into account the actual CSM blowing up. You know, what they had to do was use the life support systems from the LEM on Apollo 13 because the O2 tanks exploded on the CSM. So they had to jerry-rig the life support systems on the LEM to work for the CSM as well. And that's where they ran into fitting problems. After that, NASA standardized a lot of fittings on things because reasons. You saw the movie. Did you, though? I mean, this respectfully, it's the same thing that's going on today with so much negative or positive comments toward a company like Elon. Look, man, Outdoorsman, I'm not ignorant to like Von Braun's past. I know exactly where he came from. I could probably tell people more history about it than the people who claim that he, to know a lot about his history. I've read all about what happened at Peenemünde in middle work, making rockets underground with slave labor. I know exactly what happened. Yeah, it's screwed up. I can acknowledge that, but I can also acknowledge that this is an amazing systems engineering architecture. It's amazing. It's so well thought out. And it wasn't just Von Braun. Von Braun was just a great project manager. It was the 400,000 strong Americans that backed him up. But yeah, I agree with you, dude. It's ridiculous. You watched it on television. Yep. But see, the Apollo program had the idea of buying 3 mobile launchers because then you design 1 and build 3. Therefore, by definition, the cost of 2 and 3 are not nearly as expensive as 1. Because development's going to take the same amount of time and cost the same amount of money no matter how many of these you build. If you build more of them, you're dealing with straight mat cost and labor costs then on. So what I'm trying to say is that this is all fine and dandy. We should build more. But anyway, yeah, good stuff, dudes. That's great. I'm happy they got ML2 stacked. I really wish the rocket it was designed to launch existed. That would be quite good. Speaking of GSE that is existing, check this out. We're going to head over to Complex 14, a little ways south of Complex 39. This is coming from Stoke. Stoke Aerospace is building out, they're refurbishing and building out Launch Complex 14 for their Nova rocket. It looks like they got a lot of concrete poured there. If you notice, there's the pedestal for the rockets up here, and the deflector is down here, and it looks like they got a preliminary fixed service structure going on there. It's like certain people refuse to learn about economies of scale. Yeah, I don't understand it, man. Of course, Outdoorsman. They look stoked. They look pretty happy. And that, I must say, dude, that's a pretty big flame trench, man. I like this part up here. That part's pretty cool. Nice, Fred. Nice. You think of that one? There needs to be an old Ford truck in this picture. All right, what do we have? What kind of construction equipment do we see? You just think of that one? All right, so it looks like we got a torch, a acetylene torch over there. There's a crawler crane right here. Looks like a Toyota Camry over there, or Honda Civic. I don't know, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Not construction equipment. There's a truck over there, but it's a Chevy. Got a couple of JCB excavator right there, a couple of generators, an SX-180 lift, and then there's a pumper truck over there. That's a concrete pumper. That thing's pretty cool. It's pretty hefty. Pumper trucks are sick. That's probably the truck that they use to pour the concrete in the forms here. Stoke sweep incoming. Like I said, that's a pretty wide trench, man. That's a Mack? What do we got there? Yes, it is. Actually, are you sure? It might be a Freightliner. I don't know, God. You know trucks better than I do. And then we got basically the car equivalent of AI Slop, a crossover SUV that has no character and no soul, and is quite literally the Borg of automobiles. What? It's a Mack? Or so what is it, Anthem? Got a couple of toilets, but those aren't construction vehicles. Wrong grill for a freight shaker. Now, fellas, quick questions here. What are these things for? 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's got to be a lightning arrestor. Those are lightning towers. That's what those are there for. There's gonna be lightning towers around this thing. I really, really, really hope there's one behind the SX-180. Or yes, there is. Okay, I can see the form right there. If they were going with a 3-tower system, I would be very upset. Look at them tanks. Whoever did that must have been a hell of an operator. It's probably crooked. It's probably crooked. And then back there, you can see their integration facility being built, which is pretty sick. Cool. Stoke's making pretty good progress. I'd say this pad is still, at the very least, probably 6 months out. But that's cool to see another pad getting some love down at the Cape. Pretty awesome, man. Okay, and now the moment you've all been waiting for. Actually, there is a Rocket Lab video here. I'm kind of interested in this. It's talking about Rocket Lab building satellites. Let's see what it's got.
I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Rocket Lab. It's almost hard to believe how much work goes into building a satellite. A satellite that you see back there has 66 different harnesses, multiple systems, star tracker, solar panels, propulsion system, all these different elements that all have to come together.
My name is Anita Becerra, and I'm the Senior Supervisor of Space Systems Production. I have a highly skilled team that allows us to produce spacecraft at scale. What's great about Rocket Lab is that everything is made in-house. So we have things like our reaction wheels, radios, some harnessing, all of those things are made by Rocket Lab, and it allows them to reach our work cells quicker.
I mean, vertical integration is certainly something that differentiates us from a lot of our competitors. I often refer to us being a company that is getting the raw material rolled into the one side of the door, and on the other side of the door, beautiful.
Look at that, chat. See that? Pretty maids all in a row. What? No, I'm not talking about that. I can't believe you've never been cow tipping before. I want the one on the left. She's perfect.
Rockets and beautiful spacecrafts leave our building.
Oh, look at the Curie. That was sick.
I'm a Senior Integration and Test Lead at Rocket Lab. So we've taken a panel approach to building spacecraft, which essentially means that we're broken down the spacecraft into smaller parts and we're building and testing it in pieces. It also allows us to swap panels between spacecraft. So if we have one panel that fails or has an issue, we can just pull in another right away.
Interchangeable parts!
To move a lot faster.
What really helps us if you build a lot of the components in-house, that you can really look at your system from a holistic perspective. If we just look at the satellites,
hey, BARDA re-entry vehicles.
We intentionally designed the satellite
what up?
to an ideal stage, knowing what comes.
Did you see that lady walking by? Hold on, let me back that up. See the lady walking by? She's like,
look
yo.
At the satellites behind us. We intentionally designed the satellite
She's like, hey, what
to
up?
an ideal stage,
It's like, hey,
knowing
all right.
what components are going to be added to the satellite. So we optimize not only the satellite, we optimize the components, so we optimize the entire system. And that also allows us to be much faster on the market because we control everything in-house.
This is where our spacecraft build begins. So we have piece parts that we receive. They go through an incoming inspection and they get assembled to a completed structure frame assembly. We have reaction wheels, PPUs, comms plates, and these are all the different sides of the spacecraft that get assembled in this area, and then they get physically integrated into the actual structural frame assembly. We put the first couple of panels on, and that's where we integrate a lot of the bulkier avionics components, and then we hand it off to engineering where they perform a lot of their tests.
Yeah, so the INT team's job is the last piece in the flow. We're really the last group that gets to touch the satellite and make sure that everything is working before it goes out the door. So we're doing a lot of the little checks along the way and helping build those up with production. And then at the end, doing the big system level test showing that the whole system works together.
Ultrasonic
cleaner. I think the biggest challenge is just moving fast. You're more likely to make mistakes or forget things or miscommunication between teams. And so we've really tried to build in those daily tag ups, very clear work instructions, and very clear processes for this program to make sure that we all know what's going on. And if you're unsure, you know who to ask.
The pure talent that is here within Rocket Lab is absolutely mind-blowing. We're not just building spacecraft.
Pressure vessels.
We're really redefining the space industry. So by having a very high vertical integrated approach, having the best people in the industry and outside the industry getting together, and also being absolutely dedicated every single day, that really makes the difference. And that allows us to grow faster than others.
Hey, look, guys, COPVs. 1, 2, 3, 4.
that allows
Well,
us
look
to
at the
be
little,
more
look at the little RCS. It's so small. Look at the little
competitive.
reactions. So
Certainly
tiny.
100% mission success. That's what we all tell our people internally. What that means is that everybody who is doing something within our company, from a design, from a building perspective, we always have the highest standard of quality that we apply to whatever we do. So we test the individual components, we test subsystems, and we test the entire system to just make sure that we always have 100% mission success.
Pretty cool video. Good stuff. All right. I don't know about you guys. I like seeing satellite assembly lines. Those are pretty neat. Hopefully they don't drop them. Yeah. Yeah, we probably don't want that. Okay, so the moment you've all been waiting for. Starship news. You guys did give me a bunch of links for what's going on with Starship here. I think we'll start with this here. So this picture is coming from Starship Gazer. And it's a picture of one of the Starship transport stands getting some heavy modifications done to it. Now, I'll tell you what. If you had told me that SpaceX was going to modify a transport stand in some way to get testing working for Ship 37, to complete Ship 37's testing campaign, and not just straight up rebuild Massey's, I would have called you nuts. A couple of weeks ago, when Ship 36 exploded on the test stand, I said it won't take too long to rebuild Massey's, and they are making good progress on it, for what it's worth. What I didn't realize is that SpaceX, just how crazy SpaceX actually can be. They took the Starship transport stand. The thing is basically designed to just move starships around. And they are modifying it. They are modifying it to be a static fire stand. Now, the running theory is that they're adding plates and stuff to this thing to put it on top of the first Starship pad, orbital launch mount, and conduct some type of crazy static fire from a Starship on the orbital launch mount. Yeah, a couple people suggested that this might happen, and I'll be honest, I said that that's probably unlikely. I think they'll just rebuild the test. They'll just rebuild Massey's and kind of go from there. Nope. I was wrong. They're going to set that thing, from what I can tell here, from the modifications that these dudes are making, they're going to set this thing down on the clamps, on the OLM-A or 1 or whatever you want to call it. They're going to set that thing down on the clamps. The clamps that would hold super heavy, and basically turn Pad A into an adapted test stand. How are they going to fuel it? They have a second Starship ship quick disconnect that's left over from the suborbital launch pads. Massey's was basically using parts from the early parts of the Starship program. It was using GSC from the early parts of the Starship program. Cast your mind back to about 5 years ago. There's 2 actually, 3 years ago at this point. There's 2 launch pads sitting at Boca Chica. There's suborbital A and suborbital B. SpaceX ended up scrapping both of those pads to build, orbital pad B or pad 2 or whatever you want to call it. And basically, SpaceX had a spare ship quick disconnect. So the running theory right now, and keep in mind, guys, I've been out of the loop, so you tell me. The running theory right now is that they're going to piece together parts from OLM, or from the suborbital launch pad A, this transport stand, and the OLM, and actually make a test stand out of the first Starship pad. Is this not a Vegas put it all on black level gamble? Sean, that's a good question. SpaceX took out a ship quick disconnect from Mega Bay 2, which will be used for it. There you go. I don't think so, Sean. By the time so SpaceX is rebuilding Massey's. We know that they are. Actually, the progress has been quite good here. RGV, I'm pretty sure, had a picture of Massey's. Let me go find it. Yeah, here we go. So this is RGV aerial, right? This was posted on Sunday. This is what I was telling you guys about. Look, Massey's is already starting to get cleaned up, dude. Just get the bulldozer out there and start moving stuff. They already have gantries and scaffolding up around the test stand to basically make sure that it's okay. And also, the ship quick disconnect that was here is long gone. There was a huge thing that fell. The gantry, the service gantry for the ship quick disconnect was right here. And it fell and it landed on this thing. That's all gone. It's already been cleared out. It's not, there's no pieces of it around. Massey's might not be ready for fully months though. Yeah, okay, listen, hear me out. You're not wrong. I don't think it's going to take, so first of all, I don't think it's going to take that long to clean up. I'd say they'll have it rebuilt probably by the end of this month. If not, like very close to finished. It only took 2.5 months to build that test stand in the first place. So as long as you're the kind of bespoke parts, like the Massey's transport stand, this thing that looks like a head crab, as long as that thing is okay, it's just replacing pipes and rechecking out the pad. Now keep in mind, I said the pad would be rebuilt. The test stand would be rebuilt. Testing, I don't know. Testing might take a little bit longer to check everything out, make sure everything's good. You're not just going to put another ship on there and call it a day, and if it blows up again, oh well, because something, you didn't cross the T's or dot the I's. SpaceX, that's probably not a good enough timeline for SpaceX, so they are modifying a Starship transport stand and going to have it be on the pad. Now, I don't think this is a gamble. I really don't. Massey's will be up and running more sooner rather than later, but SpaceX has to keep cadence up. The thing is that when it's all said and done, by the time Pad A is basically retooled for this test fire, I'm pretty sure Pad B will be operational. I'm pretty sure it'll be good to go. So even if it's not like totally 100% good to go, Sean, I'm pretty dang sure that it's close enough to being finished that if you lose Pad A, so what? You lose the pad. As long as you don't lose the chopsticks, you're fine. Right? The sticks are what matters because you need a catching tower to catch a super heavy and a starship, right? So it's not that much of a gamble. If you lose OLMA, so what? Who cares? It's not going to damage the tower. It's really not. That tower is pretty damn strong. Heck, it probably won't even damage the pad. I mean, and those components are, from what I understand, not anybody else, Pad A is outdated. It's a crappy design. It's not going to be compatible with Block 2, with the Block 2 booster. So it's going to need to be retooled eventually. You might as well, put a Starship on it, and if it blows up, it'll inadvertently demolish the pad for you. So send it. Now, that part I didn't predict. I didn't think SpaceX would be that crazy, but it does make sense when you think about it. So, yeah, of course it's a gamble to an extent, but it's an old transport stand that for a Block 2 booster, right? It's an old pad that's frankly for a Block 1 booster and Block 2 ship, or old transport stand for a Block 2 ship, right? The pad is for an old style booster. We'll say a Block 2 booster, right? Who cares? Send it. Send it, baby. I did not predict that. I thought they would just rebuild Massey's and call it a day. But Pad A is on its way out. That's no secret. It can't launch the newer versions of Starship, the V3. Can't launch those. So they're going to have to remodel it anyway. And worst case scenario, a Starship does it for you when it blows up on the pad. The Pad AOLM withstood the Booster 7 backfire. Yep. Yep, that's right. They did do COPV testing at McGregor. Yeah, that's right. Something on McGregor Live on NSF made quite a splash. They blew something up and a COPV was seen flying into the horizon. So they definitely were testing something with COPVs at McGregor. Either that or something popped that they really didn't want. But rapid, unplanned remodeling. That's right. The QD is probably going to Massey's. They might, and they've done this before with Booster 14.1 and Booster 7, just connect hoses to the BQD and hook it to the ship OLM. Yeah, that's my guess, Erudite. A lot of people don't remember the suborbital pad complex. There was a time where SpaceX was just manually hooking up hoses to the quick disconnects because the ship quick disconnects weren't ready. So they might just hook up hoses and call it a day. Big enough boom and the tower comes down? Highly unlikely, Sean. The 4 rails that make up the key points of the tower have concrete in them, dude. It's not just a metal structure. There is concrete, reinforced concrete inside of the posts on the OLM. It is a 520-foot tall, 4 concrete-legged tower. It's not going anywhere, dude. And it's anchored into enough concrete in the ground. We know the pilings for that thing go down probably about 100 feet. It ain't going nowhere. Must connect the Jose's. So yeah, that seems to be what's going on. SpaceX seems to be redoing an old Starship transport stand to make a kind of bespoke static fire testing stand on Pad A at Boca Chica, which is, that's a vibe. Ship 38 done cryo. No, celeb. Ship 38 has not done cryo testing. Ship 37 has done cryo testing and then nothing since. And F5 tornado wouldn't move those towers. Or a hurricane. They're not going anywhere. Cryo, spin prime, static prime, spin prime, cryo test. Pretty cool, though. Ship 37 still has no flaps. Don't need flaps to do a static fire, Vargon. They've tested the nitrogen farm in Massey, so they might resume cryo testing from Massey sooner rather than later. Sure. Like I said, guys, this is pretty good progress for a week and a half. There was a lot more stuff on the ground over here than when this picture was taken. In fact, I'm wondering if RGV has a picture, like a before and after picture. What's that? Oh, the air separation unit. Sick. SpaceX is building an air separator by the roundabout on the north side of Highway 4. Pretty cool. Wondering if RGB has a picture. Yeah, okay. That's what it looked like. That's what it looked like when it popped. It's pretty damn clean comparatively now. All of this stuff is gone. Hey, God, thanks for the bits. Who is this Jose's? And why is he so important that they have to ask if he could see every board before every sporting event in America? I don't know. Can you ask a silly question? No. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, man. What's up? When EJ Sawyer drive stream? Oh, boy. Let me finish the car to do the road trip in, okay? Let me see if I can get a shot of pad. Now, meanwhile, check this out. RGV also has a shot of pad 2, which is their pad B, that pad or whatever. It's got a little ways to go, but that's looking pretty damn complete, guys. I just did, thanks. Oh. You can ask another one if you want. 2B East. Well, it'd be West, because the pad 2B West. That's what we're calling it from now on, Foz. I was just calling it that pad. This pad is the one that's over there. That pad is right there. Can we call the pad Frank? Sure. That's, you know what? That's what I'm calling OLM. That's what I'm calling pad 1 and pad 2. I'm going to call them pad 1A and 2B. Yeah. 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 I'm just going to find the most annoying way to call it that. And yeah, we'll call it a day. 2B or not 2B? No. I'm going to call it 2B. That isn't the question. That's a statement. Alas, poor Chatrick. I knew him well. B1 and 2A? Very pro 2A. Yeah, that's a good name. We should call it that. What? I'm talking about launch pads. Don't look at me like that. Wonder what those pilings over there are for. See these bad boys? Wonder what those are for. Can anybody tell me? I'm out of the loop. What are they doing here? What are those things? And are they on the other side? I don't see them over there. They still got some concrete to cast over here up at the rim of the flame trench here. Don't look at me with that tone of voice. This trench is still insane to you. In the bottom of that, we'll have the forces equivalent to a nuclear blast going off. Yeah, of course. Most launch pads are like that. They need to be strong. That's why there's, like, really, really wide, thick concrete that's clad in steel with many layers of rebar underneath it. So, interesting thing of note here, there's some HVAC systems installed, meaning there's something that requires climate controlled in here. See the tubes? Tube. Interesting. You can see where the booster quick disconnect will be. Oh yeah, there's going to be one here and there's going to be one there. Okay. I love pad 2B. I like it. I think it's a really cool design. I love the trench. I love the launcher plate. I love everything about it. I hate that one of the quick disconnects is quite actually hanging off the side of the vehicle. I hate that. I hate it. Off the side of the pad. I hate it. It's hanging off the side. It looks ridiculous. Alas, poor Massey. I knew him well. That's ticking the tisms, man. I'm not gonna lie. That's activating my almonds. Like it's just hanging off the side. Just hanging off the side. Why don't you put them like right here and right here, man? This is ridiculous. No, I understand. There's really no other place for them. You can't put it over here because, I mean, you could, but they're clearly not. But that just. That clown. Would you rather it hang off the tower? I would rather it if it was me, this is purely based off aesthetic and not function. I understand why that's there. That's there for a very good reason. That's people that are way smarter than me frankly came up with. I want to precurse everything with that. I would have put that right here, and I would have put the main quick disconnect over here. Basically at the corners. That would look mint. This looks like poo-poo. My pad looked like supersize. Your pad looked like 2 fries. My pad got the VIP. Your pad has the SQD. My pad bigger than a bridge. Your pad looked like a little kid's. What? It worked, okay? If you know the song, it worked. Wasn't expecting Mickey Avalon today. Well, there you go. Yeah, there's a good reason for it, and it's most likely to, yeah, username, you got it right, dude. It's most likely to simplify the plumbing on Super Heavy. Just keep it away from everything else. My pad. Dude, you can make a whole song. That'd be awesome. Can't wait for this to be clad in steel. It's really going to look nice, isn't it? When the rocket is doing a pitch down and pad avoidance, won't the flames cook the QDs directly? To pitch going in this direction, you'd pitch the engines in this direction. Am I wrong? No. No. Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, probably. Maybe the avoidance maneuver will go that way. I don't know, dog. I got it stuck in my head now. That's not good. My pad, so hot it's launching. Your pad looks like Gary Coleman. Sorry. Anyway. With the city getting the ability to control the land south of the launch site, do you believe they will build 2 to 3 more launch complexes? Which would mean up to 6 pads? I think maybe eventually, Trey, but not anytime soon. My rocket, thick and dangerous. Yo rocket, quick and painless. It works now, right? Anyway, let's pretend like we're not still in high school just for a second. So they're building something over here. Fellas, what is this? What is this thing? Oh, man, I wish I had Ryan with me here. Ryan! Ryan, you out there? Ryan? It's an H. I mean, could be an I. You might just be looking at it wrong. Ryan is always out there. My mom says you've lost your mind. Shut up, Zoomer. Boom. Roasted. No, it's a funny song from my childhood that you probably wouldn't understand if you haven't heard the original. It's obviously a helicopter landing pad. This looks like they're moving around some type of commodities here, but I'm not exactly sure what all that is. I know that down there is fueling paraphernalia, but I'm not sure what that trench is there for either. It's definitely moving commodities because it has the room for an expansion, a hydraulic expansion joint right there. A breakover fixture? Huh. That's a good guess, dude, but I'm not really sure. They're also, look at that. These guys are laying down rebar and got forms set up here to basically make some a reinforced concrete slab right here. Interestingly enough. My mom is older than you. She is 43. She should understand. Could that be the ship quick disconnect line? You know what, Bodojo? That's probably it. Because I know that in this pit right here, that's commodities. That's coming the fuel lines go actually underneath the water suppression system area. The fuel lines go underneath to the fuel farm, which is over there. And it looks like there's definitely some splits and elbows over there going this way. So, yeah, definitely, dude. That could be going to the SQD. It's just stuff for pumps to the OLM and tower. If you follow it, it goes to the OLM. Well, the OLM stuff is over here, and it goes that way. And then it comes in over here. It's underneath those trucks right there. See the pipes? Oregon, see those pipes? Those pipes go over here. They go around, and they go in here, and then they go this way. SpaceX for this pad, I noticed they put all their commodity lines basically in a drainage culvert. That looks like a drainage culvert that you'd see for, well, drainage, but they're obviously not using it for that. Now, that was there before I saw the trench. My thought now is maybe they're making the tank farm design more modular. Well, clearly there's a lot of pipes here, so it's doing something. I don't know. I'm not really 100% sure what that is. I'd have to ask. Pipes. Laughing pipes. And it's also very clear that they're building a blast wall over here, protecting the water suppression system. Like, dude, look at that concrete wall, man. That wall is huge. Didn't even notice that, dude. And there's more of it over here. Those are just temporary fixtures, though. Man, this thing has made a lot of progress since the last time I looked at it. Yeah, there's still some questions here, though. But, I've also noticed that the cladding on the tower goes a lot higher than the previous one. It looks like they're going to be installing more of it. See it up there? Protection is important. Right. Right. What happens first? Massey static fire after rebuild, or pad 2A, B, C, D, Z, F -1 is finished? Massey's first, most likely. Booster 3 is still a little ways off. But speaking of that, check out this post from Zach. NSF and Lab Padre caught this the other day. Look at this. Look at this thing. No, that ain't no gasoline truck, boy. I'd take pleasure in gutting you, boy. What you guys are seeing right there is the version 3 booster header tank. SpaceX, well, it's the LOX header tank to be quite sure. Or no, methane. So that thing right there is going through the liquid oxygen tank. That is the methane downcomer. SpaceX, instead of having a pipe that goes down to a tank at the bottom of the vehicle for the ability to restart engines, right? SpaceX took the methane down tuber, transfer tube, and made it the header tank. So let me explain how this is all going to go together. So on the current designs of Super Heavy, say this is Super Heavy here, you have all your engines down here, right? How this works is that the methane tank is up top, right? And there was a pipe that went down here like this, and then there was a tank down here like that. And then your LOX was here, right? And your CH4 was here. This thing is doing this. They eliminated the pipe and just made it do that. Which is crazy. It's now a transfer downcomer header tube. I called it a down tank tuber. That's what I called it. It's a tank tuber. So that is going inside of Booster 3. And this is what I mean by Pad B's got a little ways to go. I'd say at least a month before Pad B is good to go, or at least it's ready for checkout and testing. And if that part's seeing the light of day, Booster 3 is still a little ways out. Needs more room for life support. That opens up a lot of space. That is for Super Heavy and not Starship. All I can think of is Pogo with that landing tank. Yeah, Baron, yeah. No, all you can think of is Pogo, because SpaceX, who had Pogo claim one of their flights, would just build this tank willy-nilly, even though they understand the Pogo problems associated with launching super heavy launch vehicles. And they would just ignore all that and build that just because frick it, send it, right? Like, that's how that worked. Nope, I'm pretty sure they're not doing that. Pretty sure they're not doing that. Check Discord. Okay. Check Discord, man. Oh. What the heck am I looking at here? Huh. Interesting. So that replaces the tube that runs down the outside. Super Heavy doesn't have a tube that runs down the outside. It's an internal one. Oh, the oil set. Oh, yeah. Okay, Best Starter. It took me a second. Cool. I mean, that is their motto, send it. I don't think that this would have been implemented without prior knowledge of Pogo and how it works.
Discovery, go and
Would something like that work on the ship that you're building for KSP? The fairings all connected to each other, Iger, are basically serving the same purpose structurally as this. What is Pogo? Harmonic resonance, Graham. It's a nice way of saying that the rocket engines make so much vibrations, you're likely to hit a resonant frequency somewhere on something in the vehicle and cause it to explode. Yeah. Pogo is a type of harmonic resonance specifically referring to longitudinal oscillations in the vehicle. Basically where the vehicle starts doing this because of vibrations. Eventually, something will hit a resonant frequency and it'll explode. So like a pogo stick. Yes. Zach did a video on it recently. Now we blame everything on Pogo. Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. But Zach's video is super good, by the way. Methane Subcooler, did you call? Yeah, what's up? Silly name. You know what else is a silly name? Graham Weldon. Got him. So yeah, that thing was lifted up into Mega Bay 1, where they're building proverbially the first V3 booster. I detest you, sir. Sorry, I can't hear you. It sounds like you're saying something about kangaroos or something. What was that? Oscillations go right to your thighs, and then you'll blow up. Yeah, so they actually, right after this, they lifted it up and put it in the Mega Bay over there. Pretty cool, man. So we are seeing some Booster 3 components around, but yeah, Booster 3 still, and frankly, Pad 2B are still a little ways out. Wait, please tell me that SpaceX won't give this to General Dynamics and Lockheed for the new tanks. What would be the caliber for the tank? What? 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 You lost me, Outdoorsman. I have no idea why. So what would be the benefits for that one versus the one that they use now? Less parts. Less less things to make. You don't have to make, a tube with a fitting, right? Tube with a fitting, and then another tube that goes down and then into the header tank, and have to work on making a dome for the header tank. This just eliminates that possibility. Also, they could probably make super heavy a little bit shorter because of this. Actually, it could probably make the methane tank a little bit smaller, but they'd have to make the LOX tank a little bit taller. And then sometimes I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a ball. Wait, sorry. No, that's something different. Hey, leave the kangaroos out of this. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Something about dingoes, whatever. But I can't understand you. Since the tank is being installed, we aren't too far from a fully stacked V3 booster. We're already at 23 out of 36 rings, and this will allow the LOX tank to be finished. Yeah, but it's still... That's good. That's good progress, Trey. Booster 3 is coming sooner rather than later, but not in the next month. I don't think. I mean, that'd be cool to be wrong. I don't mind when I'm wrong. I really don't care. The autogenous pressurization is better on V3. Cool. A shorter Super Heavy could help make a longer Starship. Yep. Raptor 3 has a heat exchanger and the autogenous pressurization. They're removing the spaghetti colander too. Well, yeah, of course. They got to move it to the cafeteria so they can make spaghetti for all their hungry employees. Zach did mention there's a potential issue with icing for the CH4 if it sits with the LOX for too long. Do you think they will finish 18.1 testing on pad B? No, unlikely. Looks like it could be a tank barrel, like an upgrade to the Abrams or something. Dude, an Abrams could also almost drive through that tube, outdoorsman. It kind of looks like a cannon. I see it, but it's... Dude, that tube is... What is it, Chad? Like 3.6 meters wide? It's as wide as a Falcon 9. They're basically putting a Falcon 9 first stage inside of Super Heavy's LOX tank. It's not exactly a Falcon 9 first stage. It's just analogous in size. Hey, AJ, just rewound a bit to see what you were saying about that tank. You were correct initially when you said it's a LOX header tank. Are you sure, Jake? I don't think that... Nice, Noswolf. I don't... Wait. On Super Heavy, did they switch something with V3, Jake? Is LOX on top, methane on the bottom?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Like if it's the header tank in the V2 booster, majority of it holds LOX, and the very bottom holds methane. LOX on the bottom. So that's a twin header tank. Wait. So, all right, I'm gonna draw something. I'm gonna make sure I got this right in my head, just so I know I'll get asked this again. All right, that's Super Heavy, right? You have your up here. You have your CH4, right? There's your CH. Oh, that's crappy dome. That's the CH4 right there, right? And then down here, you have LOX, right? Are you guys telling me that this thing splits the LOX tank, right? But inside of it, there's something like this, and there's still a pipe that goes down from the methane tank like that? And then inside of here is LOX, right? And there's CH4 here, or is it reversed? Are these reversed? Is there CH4 up here and locks at the bottom? I said consummate V's. I think locks at the bottom. Oh, that's super interesting. So that means we're looking at something like this. You have a common bulkhead inside of your header tanks like this, and then you have CH4 lines that go down here. And then your pickups for all your LOX plumbing is here, and then your pickup for your methane plumbing is there. So this is still, so the CH4 in this design acts like one big tank, yes? Like that. And then the LOX basically acts like this. Right? But this part is perforated so LOX can fit in here. Interesting. That's a very, very weird way of doing that, but no, like not weird. It's, yeah, it's, so that tube basically looks like this. It's a tube, right? And then it has a dome inside of it like this. And inside of the dome is your CH4 pickup, and that goes through and down. Like that. I don't think so. That would pinch CH4 flow. This doesn't make any sense. That's where I'm getting confused from. To prevent sloshing problems, it's to feed the inner 13 engines for boost back and landing burn. Yeah, I got it. I got you. I got you. So SpaceX is running different sets of pickups for the outer engines than they are for the inner engines. Damn, dude. I thought we were getting crazy with the Prometheus rocket. That's just ridiculous. I mean, in Kerbal, we don't even have to worry about plumbing. Damn, that's actually crazy, dude. I think it could be used as like a reserve tank. It's not a reserve tank. That center piece that we saw getting moved into the Mega Bay is your landing tank. That's the tank that's going to be used, from what I understand here, for the inner engines to do that. It's to prevent sloshing when Super Heavy's coming back down and landing. I get it. It's pretty smart. It's pretty cool. Well, the header tank will work like a vacuum jacketed line to protect from temperature differential. Yeah. I hope they don't try something like this with V2 ship RVAC transfer tubes. I don't think so. Yes, but those tanks could pull off the main tanks till they're needed for landing. And Goalie, I honestly don't understand what you're trying to say. You're saying, oh, I think they're going to do it this way, and I'm saying they don't have to because this way already does what you're saying. And then you said, no. Well, then they could do this. Like, no, you're missing the point. That header tank does exactly what you're talking about. It's your reserve tank. But you don't need to worry about having a whole separated tank because the fluid in the booster is always just going to go down because of AP, because of tank ullage and deceleration forces. Think of it more like a funnel than anything. Do you think New Glenn will land on its next test flight? I hope so. Blue declared that they wanted to get that first booster back and then didn't. And with their... If I'm understanding this correctly, Blue is using a more waterfall approach to things, a more conventional approach to launching stuff. If they didn't... So, basically, if they said they wanted to land it and didn't, that's a big problem. But it did make it into space, which is good. Can you do ecstatic fire longer than a minute on the first pad? Depends on how much water it can hold, the dojo. Water suppressor is your big thing there. They might not even have to use the water suppressor, dude, with the Starship, but who knows? Did you see the news on Axiom's testing? Somebody told me about it, but I don't have the link. But give me 1 second. This is getting ridiculous, dude. I gotta do something about this. I wanted to do something about it during vacation, but I didn't have any time to do that. I was stuck on a freaking desert. Anyway, I'm not angry about that. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Summer's off to a splash. They're testing the XEMU in the neutral buoyancy lab. All right. Cool. You'll be snowing soon anyway. Yeah, you're not wrong. Pretty cool. It's very strange to me seeing somebody in a spacesuit, right? And then seeing guys in scuba gear next to him. It's like almost like some interdimensional cable stuff going on here. Like something ain't right about this picture, you know? Like, no, something ain't right about this dang old picture, boy. I tell. How'd you get stuck in Vegas? I needed to go to.
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
Fluffy gifted 5 subs. Thanks, man. I really wanted to take this vacation to basically detox and just fix a bunch of things around the house. Yeah. So, my buddy's wedding was on the 28th, so it's a destination wedding in Vegas. You probably heard me talk about it. I was only really supposed to spend a weekend and Monday. Well, the weekend and basically fly out Tuesday in Vegas because it was cheaper to fly back on Tuesday, you know, spend a couple days in Vegas, then come back here and start fixing everything. Tuesday rolls around, flight gets canceled. Really weird winds in Vegas canceled a bunch of flights. And because they canceled a bunch of flights, the flights got booked out, rebooked a couple of days out. And I ended up spending a week in Vegas, you know, because that's what I wanted to do. I got back here to my house on the 4th at 5 in the morning. And then had to host the 4th of July party after that, which I did, and I did well. Boom. And then basically on my birthday on Saturday, I basically did nothing. I just slept and rested all day. And then that left me 1 day to fix all the things that I wanted to fix around the house. When I allotted 5, that left me 1. So I worked on the coronet a little bit and I fixed the 59. The 59 wasn't shifting into 3rd. It needed some new vacuum tubes for the vacuum modulator. I replaced the tubes. Now it works and now it's awesome. Did you stay on the strip? Yes. Did I see the nuclear testing museum? Yeah, I ended up having a lot of time, so I did get to see the museums. I also saw the National Museum on Organized Crime, which is pretty cool. Yeah, pretty good. It was basically a sandstorm in Vegas that canceled a bunch of flights, my flight included, which is fantastic. So I was going to do stuff like fix the heating problem in here. And yeah, none of that got done. She talked like Bugsy the whole time. Oh yeah. I think you're getting a new torque converter for your 77 F100 soon, getting it back on the road. That's cool. So yeah, there was a bunch of things that I wanted to fix around the shop, get the heating issues figured out here, a bunch of things to fix around the house. Promptly got none of that done. I wanted to relax during my vacation, promptly got none of that done either. Which is great. So this is dear Rude's fault. Yes. Yeah. Also, last bit of space news coming from space.com by Josh Dinner here. The Air Force cancels plans to build Starship landing pads on its island bird sanctuary. The Air Force's Rocket Cargo Vanguard program will apparently look for a new place for rockets to land. Complete my collection. What? The screen. Yeah, let's see if we can zoom in. I don't even use eBay on this damn computer. Vegas is a deeply underrated place to geek out. No, there's a lot of good stuff. The U.S. military is suspending its efforts to secure a small Pacific island as the test landing site for a new program using rockets to rapidly deliver cargo anywhere on Earth. The Department of the Air Force Rocket Cargo Vanguard program had eyed Johnston Atoll, part of a remote chain of about 900 miles west-southwest of Hawaii's main island, as the location to build 2 rocket landing pads. Now the Air Force is suspending those plans as it considers alternative sites, according to a report from Stars and Stripes. In March, the Air Force announced its intent to perform an here we go. The Air Force announced its intent to perform an environmental assessment of the atoll following the objections from the American Bird Conservancy. The remote island chain is surrounded by 570,000 square miles of ocean and has become a critical resting point for dozens of species of seafaring bird populations. In light of the protest, the Air Force initially delayed the completion of its environmental assessment, and it has now decided to look elsewhere to house the RCB cargo program. There's plenty of other places, but also, yeah, of course. Heads up, the new landing site is here, and it's already being built. Let me see. I don't know, man. You know, the whole point of doing this is for defense, you know? Like, it's hilarious to me that the environment is prevailing over defense, considering, considering what happened in the Pacific a little while ago. That's Tinian. They're going to put Starship landing pads at Tinian. X to doubt. I wonder if Google Earth has an updated picture. See this airbase? This is the airbase that the U.S. used to bomb Japan during World War II with atomic weapons. The atomic weapons loading pit is over here. See that? See the 2 loading bays? Yeah, the U.S. got rid of it after World War II because we didn't need it because we had Guam. The U.S. reactivated Tinian the last year, which is very interesting. I mean, I wouldn't want to use Tinian for... I mean, you could use Tinian for a Starship landing site, I suppose. There's not a lot of people out there, but... Tinian is already active. I know, that's what I just said. But... Yep, see? That's what I was looking for with the updated pictures, but... Yeah. 4 big runways there. Why not use Midway or Quad? I don't know. There's plenty of other places. It's just... There's plenty of other places for birds to nest, too. What's to say that wherever they choose isn't going to just be like, people are going to be like, but think of the birds. Yeah, okay, we'll think of the birds. The island will be nice and pristine when our adversaries come and take it. Yeah, it'll be, yeah, but we saved the environment. Think of the birds. Yeah, okay.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Eddie, 75-month resub. Thank you. If Tinian is back, then bring back Iowa's. I mean, you'll get no argument from me, man. One more MSR news. Oh, yeah. Lockheed proposed a Mars sample return idea, which is pretty cool. Firm fixed price solution for under $3 billion. X to doubt. How do you know how much it's going to cost? You don't know how much it's going to cost. Don't lie. Funding development of technologies that don't exist. Okay, sure. And that isn't a slight against Lockheed. It's just developing a program on a firm fixed price has proven to be not a really worthwhile endeavor. Leave the Iowas alone. Build a new class. Sure. That's the argument I'm saying, Edmana. Like, yeah, let's not utilize it. So, you know, somebody will come and take it. That's the point that I'm trying to make. You know, you could say all you want about the environment, but let's be real, the reason why they want to test Starship landing pads out there is for island hopping in the Pacific, just in case. Let's be real here, that's the reason. The RCV program is there to deliver cargo and supplies rapidly in the event that this second Cold War that Tory Bruno is talking about goes hot. We can island hop again. That's the whole reason Tinian was reactivated in the first place. Leaving it pristine because of my birds is not going to help us. Because we left all those pristine islands because of the environment in the South China Sea, and China took them anyway and paved over them and made them airstrips, ruining the environment permanently. Just putting it out there, just some perspective. Now, Long March 5. I saw that, Ben. That's neat. Because on the other side of the ocean, this is happening. Yep. Yep. Dead crew. Very Soviet looking. Yeah, Ben, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like, Bull High Sea Monster. Interesting. We're in Chronoplan's dead end tech. You know, fellas, I think Tory Bruno is right, to be 100% honest with you. I think we're in another Cold War, and I think the sooner we realize that, the better. Yeah, Hellfish, I mean, you're not wrong. What the hell's with the G.I. Joe mannequins flying this thing? Nice Predator ripoff you got back there. Yeah, I kind of agree with Tori Bruno. That's probably something we should, be thinking about. But hey, what do I know? Anyway, guys, a little bit 8:15. I'm getting kind of tired, so we'll continue tomorrow with the summer car special. I was gonna do after hours, but I'm gonna try to take it easy. I don't want to jump back in full force. So yesterday we just did games. Today we did games and space news, and then tomorrow we'll do games, space news, and then after hours games. We'll just ramp back into it, okay? Yes, Black Eagle, pretty much. Question, did they do these pointless bird studies back when we were building Apollo? No, the EPA hadn't been invented yet. Now, Geek, I'm not going to sit here and say that environmental impact studies aren't something important. You certainly need to make sure that, you're building on, like, solid terrain, for instance. The VAB wouldn't have been able to be built without an environmental impact. It's just the environmental impact was more concerned with symbiosis of your environment rather than disrupting the environment. You can land starships on Johnston Atoll and also not disrupt the birds. You can do both of those things, but we don't. Whatever. Hey! Titan! Guys, Titan's here. He's on the pupper cam. Look at my ball. Oh, brothers. What's up, Bree? Titan? He just wants to come in here, say hi, and then leave. He's like, okay, hi. All right, cool. I don't like this. Titan, come here, Bubba's. Titan. Nope.
No?
Nope, guess not.
You don't want to be on stream?
He's like, no, this isn't going to capture my good side.
Hey, come here.
Yeah. Just a fan. The fan for the Bubbas. Hello. Hello, my bear. Well, that's my boy. He's like, it's way too hot in here.
I just want
I
to
gotta
leave.
Chat says hi.
Hi, chat. Hi, chat.
Great name for a dog. Yeah, right. Titan's a good name. We got another one. We'd name it Atlas, and then Falcon. Even though it's kind of weird calling a dog a falcon. Whatever. How's Titan with fireworks? Doesn't care. Titan is from Tennessee. He does not care about loud noises. That's most likely because he grew up with loud noises. If your dog was Delta 4, you could say Delta 4 left a heavy. All right. This Discord question? Yeah. I have. What's your Discord name? Discord question. Paste the Discord in the chat for you. Anyway, DARPA ends the Liberty Lifter program. All right. If you had a dog named Falcon, you could call it Supersonic Retro Propulsion. Okay, and on that bombshell, it's time to end. So, guys, yeah, I'll do after hours tomorrow. We'll do the summer car special. We'll start working on the Coronet. trying to finish up fabricating the rest of those frame rails. And then we'll do space news and then my summer car. So we'll go back to the full schedule tomorrow. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this space and rocket review. That's going to do it for me. I will see you guys all tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night. Guess who got a TIG welder? Oh, nice. Good for you. No overheating tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to try. All right, guys. Have a good night. I'll see you later. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.